Now I will be introducing our final speaker of the evening, Parth Thakkar. Parth graduated from Rutgers University in 2015 with a major in cell biology and neuroscience. He spent a year in between completing undergrad and starting medical school to pursue his interest in narrative medicine and attended programs in New York and Boston. This carried over to RWJMS, where he took a leadership role with the school's literary society. Currently, he is working on his independent project, Portraits, The Faces of Medicine, a photojournalism project that was created as a platform to share the stories of healthcare providers. It's at Portraits of Medicine on Instagram and Facebook, if you want to follow it. In his free time, he likes to practice photography. So please join me in welcoming Parth Thakkar.
Is this thing on? Can you hear me? Yeah? Good. All right. Growing up, I played a lot of basketball. Played in middle school. You know your boy was 4-year varsity starter in high school. And I played club here in college. See, I wasn't that good when I first got started, but day in and day out, I practiced my handles, fine-tuned my jump shot, and I got better. It's kind of the same way with surgery if you think about it. See, because surgeons got a basic set of skills that they need to master, like the different types of knots and, of course, the steps of a surgical procedure. They do this again and again until it becomes automatic. And this becomes important because if there's ever an issue, they can be proactive in solving that problem instead of fumbling with the suture. Same way with basketball. You master the fundamentals so that you can read and react to the situations and players in front of you. Basketball is an important part of who I am. It gave me a framework to find fulfillment. I think it's one of the reasons why one day I may do well as a surgeon. The story's not mine. No. Last time I played basketball was like 2 years ago. I hurt my back so badly that I missed like 5 days of microbio. My friends, they got jokes. They call me physically fragile. Honestly, I really resent them for it. I identify as more emotionally fragile. No, the story is Faizan Munshi. You can see him up here. He's standing over there if you want to eye him over there. There he is, yeah. I took this picture of him. We were talking one day after rotations, and I was really frustrated because I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life and my career. And Faizan kind of dropped that knowledge about surgery. I thought it was interesting because he answered the question of what he wanted to do with a question of his own, which is what would bring me fulfillment. I thought, you know what, he's onto something. But before I go on and kind of discuss a little bit more about where that brought me, I need to talk to you about Faizan, okay? Like, he's good at basketball, yeah, but he's not that good, all right? Like, I'm not being mean-spirited. I'm just, like, for the next however many years, I'm going to be hearing, dude, I'm so good at ball that you use me in your med talk. And, like, I just got to set the record straight, okay? Because, yeah, he scored, like, 1,000 points in varsity basketball, but it's a lot easier to score points on offense when you never, ever run back on defense. Like, never. No, you know what? But Faizan did get me thinking about, like how to pick a career, right? And we're going to move back to the story now. I think some people kind of have like this aha moment, where it really just clicks for them. They're on their surgery rotation, they're in the OR, and they're like, yeah, I'm going to be the next Atul Gawande. Or they're on neurology, and they're like, yep, I'm definitely the next Oliver Sacks. Or like in their heart of hearts, like they know they're a big sellout, and they're like, I'm gonna be the next Dr. Oz. Nah, Oz is cool, he's fine. I'm just kidding. But there are some resources that we have that I think make it a little bit easier. The school does a pretty good job of giving us that AAMC personality survey and discussing with the deans. And they gave us that alumni database, which I think is pretty useful. Some of us are lucky. We got like a good support group at home. I'm one of those people. I have like a dog and a sister and 2 parents. And on the weekends, I go home. And I talk to my parents and say, you know what, I really like this about that rotation. I didn't quite like this. And my parents, they're so nice. They would tell me, you know what, at the end of the day, you'll be doing this for like 30 plus years. Make sure, first and foremost, that you do something that makes you happy. And I'm paraphrasing. Their actual words were, you should go into dermatology. and they snapped their fingers at me when they said it, because that's how they conditioned the dog how to poop outside. So like, it's some weird. I'm just kidding. I just wanted a cheap laugh. My parents are super supportive. They're right there. No, but it is really frustrating to kind of pick this career in medicine. You don't really ever know if you're right. And so I thought, I'm pretty good at taking people's pictures, and I can get their stories through interviews. So why don't I go around interviewing people who I think have some way to figure this thing out, some framework. Maybe I can latch on to whatever wave they're riding, synthesize their stories, and present something here at Med Talks tonight. So that's what I did. One of the people that I interviewed was Julia Tartaglia. She's an M3. She told me that she came into med school wanting to address a specific issue. That issue was mental health. She wasn't quite sure how she wanted to approach it, whether she wanted to be on the front lines as a psychiatrist or whether she wanted to go into primary care and kind of make sure people had the right resources. Also, she's working on a distinction project where she's creating an app that focuses on maintaining the mental health of pre-health professionals. I interviewed Paul Lavadera. He describes himself as a passionate person. He told me that he took some time off in between undergrad and starting med school. During this time, he spent some of it in Washington State, where he was helping an underserved group of farmers. That passion carried over to Robert Wood, where he took a leadership role in our very own Promise Clinic. And he became really invested in helping marginalized populations get access to healthcare. He also has another passion. When I asked him what he likes most about his medical education, he said that he loves anatomy, he loves structure and function. And for that reason, he enjoyed certain elements of the surgical subspecialties, because essentially, you're solving someone's problem by altering their anatomy. And so he kind of has these two passions. And because like surgical subspecialties and preventative medicine don't cleanly overlap, he's kind of deciding between which passion he wants to pursue more. And so I juxtapose these two stories with one another. And if we think of Julia as coming in with a specific problem that she wanted to address and looking at different lenses how she wanted to approach that problem, Paul's kind of on the other end of that spectrum, where he has a couple of passions, and he's going to pursue one passion, and that's going to lead him to a specific problem that he's going to try to address with his medical career, whether that be surgery or primary care. I interviewed 30 medical student Chris Amro. Chris Amro told me they didn't really care about the length of his training. He didn't really care about the hours he was going to put in. When I asked him what he thought a doctor did, he said, if someone's on the street and they pass out or need intervention, I can be that person. I asked him where that idea came from. He said that when he was 13, when he was younger, he had kind of witnessed a lot of violence. Specifically, one of the times he was 13 and he was in Lebanon. He was visiting his family, and overhead a plane flew and dropped a bomb a few hundred yards away from him. He was fine, but firsthand he witnessed the devastation that it caused and the people in need of dire help. And to him, a doctor is someone who could intervene in those scenarios, which is why he's considering pursuing a career in trauma surgery. I interviewed Parth Shukla. He's a second-year emergency medicine resident. Parth Shukla told me that he came into medicine, and early on in medical school, he realized that he liked medicine, but he didn't love it the way that some of his peers loved it. He said that he wanted to have enough room to have other projects going on later on. He said when he was on a surgical clerkship where, baseline you're getting 5-6 hours of sleep a night, he would come home and he would work on this project called the Perfect H&P. It's a notebook with a nice little layout that helps students present histories and physicals when they're on rounds. So they sell it on Amazon now. It's a really great product. You should get one if you don't have one. And then he ended up choosing a residency in emergency medicine because he felt that the shift work would give him enough flexibility down the line to have entrepreneurial work also as part of his professional identity. And so I juxtapose these two stories with one another as well, where on one end I put Chris Amro, who kind of came into I put them on this axis of identity, where Chris Amro kind of came into med school to be, right? He wanted to become the person that he envisioned himself as and kind of materialize that self-actualization. Parth Shukla came into medicine almost not to be, right? His primary goal with his medical education was to make sure that he had enough room to also have entrepreneurial work and other parts of his professional identity developed. And so these are, again, are kind of two ends of the same spectrum. And these are just a few of the interviews that I've done, and hopefully will continue to do. And as I've done them, I kind of had to take a step back because I realized that in a way the people that I interviewed are outliers. You know, they're really great. Not that I don't think we're all awesome. I tell myself at least once a day how spectacular I am because of my emotional fragility. But the good thing is that I think you don't have to be an outlier to benefit from this talk. I think anyone can benefit from this talk because the lesson is if you don't know what you want to do, you can pick a singular value, have that as your anchoring point, and build all your choices around that. It's a little abstract, but if I put it this way, if I asked you what you wanted from your career in medicine, how would you describe it in a sentence? I want to find fulfillment. I want to address a problem. I want to chase my passion. I want to chase my passion. I want to fight injustice. I want to create change. I want to save lives. Or I want to be more than just a doctor. And you know what? If you don't have the singular value that you can just dedicate your life to, I think that's okay too. Because I think I'm one of those people. And what you can do in that scenario is you can build 3 axes. Find out where you lie on these axes and juxtapose it to a field that you think might fit. And those axes don't have to be any of the ones that I mentioned. I mean, the world's a messy place. You can really do whatever you want. I know if I had to pick 3, which, let's be honest, I kind of do, it would be service, identity, and impact. And I know where I fall along those axes. And I'm in the process right now of kind of finding the field that I think fits. I'm not sure that I found it quite yet, but I think if I keep doing this, it'll turn up. And there's one point that I like to make is that those are the things that I'd pick like right now, at this moment. But we don't always know how that's going to change in a month or even a year. And there's one final story that I think explains that pretty well. That's of Dr. Anthony Tobia. Dr. Tobia is the clerkship director for psychiatry here at Robert Wood, a clerkship that I just finished this past Friday. Hands down, I could say that it's my favorite rotation in med school so far. And like about 75% of the reason I'm saying that is because Dr. Tobia is in the room tonight, and and our grades haven't been submitted yet, so thought I might get a little bonus, you know. But if you look at this picture, I think it explains why I enjoy the clerkship so much. So it's Dr. Tobia. He's sitting in his office, and he's holding something, and that something is the severed head of Jason from the horror movie Friday the 13th. Which, if this was any other professor, you'd be really concerned. But for Dr. Tobia, I mean, this is his element, right? Because he's known around here as the guy who teaches psychiatry through horror films, and not just horror films. You know, our homework on his clerkship would frequently be to watch Seinfeld. Also on this stage a couple years ago, he did a grand rounds where he brought in a Broadway singer and they broke down Phantom of the Opera and the psychiatric undertones of it. And so I thought, you know what? Here's a person who has found an intersection between pop culture and psychiatry, 2 things that he obviously finds very interesting, and you know, maybe it'd be a pretty straightforward story. And I was wrong. His story was really confusing. So he told me that for the first 3 years of medical school, he knew that he wanted to be a psychiatrist. And then somewhere around the 4th year, he had a really good experience in medicine. And so he decided to do a dual residency program for both psych and medicine. And so he did that at West Virginia University. The first 6 months of that program was medicine, and it really left an impression on him. So much so that once he finished that residency program, he decided that he was going to pursue medicine. And I was in his office at the time he told me this, and I'm like, what? Like, I gotta shelve in like 4 days, and everything about psychiatry I know from you, so like, you gotta explain yourself, where did that come from? He told me that at this point, he had his wife and 3 kids, and they moved back up to New Jersey where his parents were, so everybody could be together. He wanted an academic job, And so he was trying to get a job at Robert Wood Medicine. They weren't hiring at the time. So he took a job with UBHC in the psychiatry department, thinking it would be easier later on to make a lateral move into medicine. Well, before that happened, in 2002, he got the full-time clerkship director position. In 2009, he launched his first pilot called Masters of Horror, officially behavioral science in the registrar, where he taught the master's students psychiatry through horror films. And then the following year, he brought it back to the psych department, and here he is today. And I think it's a good point, it's a good place here to kind of stop the talk, because the lesson that we learn from Dr. Chobia is as true as it is for picking a residency as it is for life. And there are certain things that we know to be true and clear and very obvious to us now that will change. We don't know what life has in store for us. All we can really do is be prepared to make our choices. And those maps, the spectra of values that we have, they're living documents, changing as much as we are. And so it's important to find a field that can answer our revisions as we continually draw them up. And if we do that, hopefully we can get closer to the things that truly make us happy. Thank you.